So how do you go from falling in love all the way to trying to get the hell away from the situation? Now, those of you who are married probably can relate, but it happened to me with an electric car, the Volkswagen ID.4 to be exact. And as I was going through this 3-year journey, I've actually made videos at every single step of the way, and that's what I'm going to show you guys, so you can kind of walk through this, and this can really help you to make a decision about buying the Volkswagen ID.4 if you're looking for one, or any other Volkswagen electric car, because I feel like you probably might have the same experience. So I'm gonna show you the very first video that I've made when I just discovered the car. I was one of the first people to actually see it, because as a member of a media, we get to see these cars ahead of everybody else. I got to interview the CEO of Volkswagen Group of America. It was great. So now before I do that, a quick reminder that this video is brought to you by EnergyPal. Are you thinking about going solar but not sure what panels to get, whether or not to get a home battery, or how much all of this is going to cost? Well, EnergyPal will do all of that for you, and you will get a $500 gift card when your installation is complete if you use the link in the description of this video. Alright, so this is the very first video that I made right after I saw the ID.4 for the first time and fell in love. When they finally pulled the cover off in a dramatic fashion, even though it was just me and my assistant in the room because we were social distancing and all of the media teams were allowed one after another, I was actually quite impressed. It is a good looking SUV regardless of electric or not. I like the front. As you can see, I spent some quality time with the car there, and I loved the back as well. And I was quite impressed with the interior. Once I got in, I thought, based on what I've seen in pictures, that the display would be too small for me, but actually it's a decent size. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to spend as much time with the user interface as I wanted to, because it was the pre-production car and not everything was working, but it was simple. I think it's very much good enough to do its job, but I gotta check it out once it's fully working to give you guys a full review of it. So let's talk about some really cool features that I really like that are kind of unique to the ID.4. And on top of my list is the ID light. It's simply the strip of LED lights that go across your dashboard where the dashboard meets the windshield. This is the most basic way to communicate the most important information to the driver, as we're usually overwhelmed by all of the information that we see on the displays and HUDs and our phones, and the music is playing loud or we're talking on the phone. So this is a really cool feature that I really like. And of course, there is a built-in back massager. And I know it's kind of a toy for some people, but if you do have a bad back or you're driving on a long distance, you know, to prevent your back from being stiff, that's actually quite an important feature. And of course, some things are just cute. Check out this accelerator and brake paddles with the play and pause labels on them. I absolutely love this. I don't know, maybe I haven't seen this before. I don't know if you have, let me know in the comment section, but I thought that was quite clever. And this car was the first edition, so it had some accents and trimming that made it into a very sharp looking car. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think, but I absolutely loved it. Now let's get to the inevitable, which is the comparison to the Tesla Model Y. They are essentially in the same category, and I will tell you what my take on it is, but I think the first dibs should go to the CEO of Volkswagen Group of America, Scott Keogh. Do you feel like you're sort of in the same category, you know, without getting a tweet from Elon with your answer? But at the same time, why do you think people will go for the ID.4 if they've also looked at a Model Y or also other cars in the same category?
Look, I think there's a couple of things at play here. I think first and foremost, look, the Beatles needed the Rolling Stones needed the Beatles because it made rock and roll better. Tesla needs Volkswagen, Volkswagen needs Tesla because it'll get more people driving electric cars. So this is not a zero-sum game, and everyone wants to be, you know, this is killing that, that's killing that. No one's killing anything. It's awesome technology that's going to drive adoption for America. That's the first part. The second thing, in terms of primary targets, I think you're exactly right. Yes, the electric car owner already knows electric vehicles. They know all about them. And we feel very confident they'll give our car its day in court. They'll cross-shop it. What they'll find out, car drives like crazy. $14,000, $15,000 less than the Tesla Model Y, has similar packaging, and it's a damn good car. Fact. But the bigger opportunity, and to me, I always, look to the famous race car drivers and what they say when you try to pass somebody. You don't look at where all the traffic is. You look at where the daylight is. Look for daylight. And for us, the daylight is we have a compact SUV. There's 35 million of them on the road in America at this price point. There's 4 million of them sold each and every year. So the bigger opportunity is not the 240,000 electric vehicles on the road in America. The bigger opportunity is the 4 million A compact SUVs, the Toyotas, the Subarus, the Hondas. So that's why we're putting our effort there. We'll get our day in court. We have an awesome car. Electric buyers will cross-shop it, and I think we'll do quite well. But we're more interested in, as I say, the daylight, not the traffic. We want to open up the whole market, and that's the opportunity in my mind, clearly.
I gotta tell you, I love the confidence of this guy. Usually when I talk to an executive from a legacy brand, they're trying to be very sort of careful about what they say, especially about Tesla. They don't like to compare it. They usually try to say, well, we're doing our own thing. But, there's nothing wrong with saying, yes, we are better than the competition, but do so in a respectful way, as Scott did. None of the, oh no, Mr. Musk, don't send the mean tweet my way because I said that we're better than you. Now let's break down what he said, because essentially the ID.4 is a car for drivers, where the Model Y is the car for techies, and there is a market for both. Obviously, the Model Y's got the best tech. It's got the autopilot if you choose to pay for it. There's absolutely no competition there. Their tech is exciting. They got the over-the-air updates, so the tech gets better with time, and it is a Tesla. On the other hand, the ID.4 has more of a mainstream look that's still very much good looking, where the Model Y is kind of a cutting edge. And again, there's audience for both. Of course, there's something to be said about the display behind the steering wheel that most people are used to. For example, I just will not buy a car without one. I just don't feel very comfortable, where some people really do embrace the absence of it. And of course, there's something to be said about the brand recognition. Volkswagen is much more recognized and established brand. They have more service centers, and of course, service is something that Tesla has not excelled in. So a lot of people may be persuaded by just that.
All right, now fast forward 3 months after I actually got the ID.4, and I was one of the first people to get it in the United States. It was first edition, only 2,000 of them were actually imported in the US, and this is essentially a list of pros and cons. And of course, in the beginning, the list of pros was much longer, and I do believe that most of this is still very much relevant today.
Let me tell you something that I was convinced of when I saw the car for the first time and then learned about its price, and it's more true now that I've had it for a while. This is the best value for the price you're going to pay for an electric car today. Depending on where you live, you can get this car for under $30,000 after incentives and rebates. I love a good deal, and boy do I think I got one here. So first, let's start with the top 5 list of things that I love about this car. Number 1, and like I said, I love a good deal, and no deal is better than a free deal. This car comes with 3 years of unlimited fast charging with Electrify America, and it is all free. I loved the unlimited free charging when I had my Tesla, and now I love it with my ID.4. There are tons of stations here in Sacramento, in the Bay Area, where I travel the most. Overall, in the United States, there are over 500 locations, and they're growing with every month. Now, there are only 2 other cars that have this type of a deal, and both of them are over $100,000. They are the Lucid Air and the Audi e-tron GT, and neither one of them is on the market yet. And at number 2 is the ID Light. What a simple but genius innovation. It visually tells you about the upcoming turns, gives you a collision warning, and shows you the state of charge. Now, it will probably do more in the future with the over-the-air updates, but it's perfect since for me, I'm either on the phone or listening to music when I'm driving, the visual cues are much better than sound cues. I should mention that it only works with the native navigation system and does not work with the Android Auto or the Apple CarPlay. At number 3, it is a smooth and quiet ride, just like the way I like it. And I know a lot of people are saying, oh, ID.4 is not very fast. And once people started saying that, I decided to kind of test it out and try to take off as fast as I can at the red lights. Not something that I normally do, but I've noticed that 9 out of 10 times I actually would beat everybody off of that light, which means that at least 90% of people out there think that the ID.4 is actually too fast. Number 4 is the user interface. And I know my friend Sandy Monroe doesn't really like it, but to me, it is simple and visually pleasing. It's great for people who just want to drive and handle everything else on their phone. Now, I do have to say that it's a little laggy, especially when you just start the car up. It takes about a minute for it to catch up. And I'm also not that crazy about the climate control screen, but I'm sure that can be improved with the future updates. And number 5 is I love the way it looks. And I'm not even a big SUV fan, to be honest with you. Now, I should mention that the gray accent that goes along the top of the car will stay gray no matter what color you pick. I love it with my black on black ID.4, but just something to be aware of. Now, I know a lot of you probably want me to talk about the range. Now, the EPA range is 250 miles, and then it is whatever you make of it. In my case, when I drive long distance, when it actually does matter, I drive it, a little fast, a little hard. Usually it's at night, so there's wind and it's cold, and I'm using the heater and the lights. So I'm probably not the right guy to tell you about the real world range. All right, so let's talk about some other features. And obviously this is a first edition, so I got the white steering wheel and other white accents throughout the front part of the car. And I gotta tell you, I bought a bunch of cleaning supplies when I got the car, and they've been kind of collecting dust in the corner of my garage because this damn thing is not getting dirty at all. It is still pretty snow white. It's also got haptic and touch controls where you can just kind of slide your finger to control up and down of whatever control that is. And it even has a no touch control. For example, the dome lights, you don't even have to touch them. Just get your finger close enough and they will turn on or off. It's also got something that I would never expect from a car in this price range, but it's got a massager, and it's actually pretty good. And the thing is, I thought it was only for the passenger until I was on a date very recently, and she was like, oh, I got a massager too. I'm like, no, girl. You don't know anything about this car. Of course you don't have a massager. Even $100,000 cars don't have a massager for the passenger. And I have a massager for the passenger. You can also open a trunk with just your foot like that. It actually came handy very recently when I was at the Home Depot. It also has the mood lighting, which did help me with my date that I was talking about. And also that changes the UI theme colors. You can pick from the colors that are already preset, or you can create a custom color. It's got the beautiful panoramic roof with shade, which is great for me because I'm not friends with sun apparently. The gesture controls are awesome, and the proximity controls, as you can see, the icons actually have labels appear when you get your fingers closer to the screen. It's got the play and pause button pedals, which do absolutely nothing except for make me very, very happy about the car. And yes, it does have the on and off button, but not in an old school type of a way. The car does come on when you enter it and shuts down when you leave, just like with a Tesla or any other modern car, but you can also have a choice to manually turn it on or off while you are inside, which I found useful many times now. Now, the window switches are a little weird because there are only 2 of them instead of 4, so you have to toggle between the front and rear pairs. But if you long press on the rear button, you are now able to operate all 4 at the same time, which is useful. Now, my car did not come with a garage door opener because it is an option, but I'm perfectly fine with it because if I don't have to program yet another garage door opener for half a day, I think I'll be just fine. The driver assist features are pretty good. Now, I don't usually use driver assist features even when I had the autopilot in my Tesla, but the feature that I do use all the time is when you are veering off of your lane, just about to, it actually nudges you back, like gently and nicely, almost whispers it in your ear. Alex, pay attention. and I absolutely love it. It does come with a home charger and a tire repair kit, though this car came with a run flats, which is very useful when you don't have a spare tire like most electric cars don't. Oh, and it's got the best turning radius of any car I've ever driven. It's hard to capture it on camera, but imagine a dog that's chasing its tail. That's how good it is. All right, so now let's talk about things that I'm not very crazy about, or some things that you guys may not be very crazy about, but the good news is that most of them are correctable with future software updates, and I know many people who may not be bothered by the same things that I am bothered by. By the way, after I got my ID.4, Volkswagen has become one of the sponsors of this channel because it kind of made sense, but you gotta give them some credit because I told them that I will not be changing my reporting because of that, and they were very much on board with it, and thus this section of this video when I'm gonna tell you about things I don't like about the car. And boy, am I going to start with something that not only I dislike, I absolutely hate about this car, and it is its mobile app. I can probably bitch and complain about it for the next half an hour, but let me just tell you this. If this car came without the app at all, I would be a happier customer than I am right now with this app. Now let's talk about the voice commands. Now granted, I'm not a big voice commands type of a guy when I'm driving because I'm either listening to the music or talking on the phone, or maybe it's because I never liked listening to my parents when I was a child, but they are not very robust, just like pretty much in any car, and it does take a while for the car to kind of comprehend what you're saying and maybe do what you're asking it to, so I'm not a big fan. I've also had some trouble connecting my phone. Now, granted that this is a pretty old phone. This is a Pixel 3. And the car is a brand new, latest model type of a car. But nevertheless, I've had some problems. It wasn't too bad, but something to be aware of. And the charging pad is kind of underneath there in the storage compartment. Now, I don't use it anyway because I can't really charge this on any pad because the case is pretty thick. So it's a moot point for me, but you probably want to know. It also doesn't have a front trunk. It doesn't have a frunk. Now, to me, it doesn't make any difference because I never used the frunks of my Teslas before, so I'm not going to start now, but I know some people really like it, so maybe this is something that Volkswagen can reconsider with the future models.
All right, now let's move on to the next video that I made 1 year after I took ownership of the car, and you can see that now things have gotten a little bit more interesting.
First thing that I love about my ID.4, though these are not in any particular order, the value. What you get per each dollar spent is absolutely amazing and beats any EV offering on the market right now. Period. The 250 miles of EPA range, which realistically is around 210 to 220 for me, the clean and well-built interior, comfortable seats, and a lot of space in the back. Oh, and did I mention in-seat massagers in both driver and passenger seats? Nobody, and I mean nobody, would complain if this car did not have these at all. But it does. It drives very smooth and quiet. The steering wheel is modern and has everything I need on it, including the haptic controls. The mood lighting is perfect, and I love the adjustable armrests. Now, I know people say it is slow, and it is true. You cannot beat Ferraris off of stoplights, but it has more than enough power for me to take off and pass cars on the freeway without having my brain hit the headrest. There are two more big perks that you get with the car that are actually so epic that I'm moving them into their own categories. Now let's talk about the first thing that I absolutely hate, and it is the mobile app. Mind you, Volkswagen has just completely redesigned it, and it made no difference in how much I hate it. Not only you have to log in twice, yes, once into the app and then into your car, even though I only have one. And even if you mark the keep me logged in switch on, it still freaking asks you every time because it's not keeping you logged in. It takes longer than it should to do that, and once you finally log in, well, there is not much there. You can see your state of charge, but you can't see the charging rate. You can turn the climate on and off, but you have to turn it on before you can actually switch the temperature, and it does take 2 to 3 minutes sometimes to actually get started. Oh, and there is no location feature either. Both Herbert Dees and Scott Keogh, the guys in charge, claim to drive this car on a regular basis, but How do they do that without firing their entire app development department? I mean, honestly, you can get on Fiverr right now and get a couple of guys to make a better app over the weekend. The second thing that I love about my ID.4, which is the 3 years unlimited charging at Electrify America, and ever since I started using it a year ago, has been almost perfect. The only other EVs that come with the 3 years of unlimited free charging are all over 100 grand. Honestly, this is one of the few things that I miss about my early Tesla ownership, the unlimited free charging, which Tesla doesn't really offer anymore, and yet now I get a peace of mind from Volkswagen. Let's move on to the second thing that I hate about my ID.4, which is the voice commands. I mean, these are just as bad as they get. They're limited to a very small number of functions. The recognition part is pretty dreadful and it takes forever to process each command. So by the time anything happens, if at all, I regret using it in the first place and most likely have already done it myself. If you can't develop your own voice recognition stuff, then do what many others did and go to Google or Amazon and license theirs. But don't put this embarrassment in my car. Now, the third thing that I love about my ID.4 is that it is simple. Yes, it's simple, and I don't have to learn a complicated user interface. In some cases, every time there is an update, there is not a ridiculous number of features I don't need and constantly have to avoid. The steering wheel has the right buttons, the user interface has the right icons, and the shortcut buttons under the screen make sense. I don't have to learn or remember all these new ways how to use a car. There is an exception though, and it is the window switches. Oh my God, how do you screw up the window switches that they've been around and they've been the same for like 100 years? But see, instead of 4 switches, one for each window, it only has 2 and then a toggle button to switch between the front and the rear. Of course, you push it accidentally because it's a touch button and roll down the wrong window half of the time. And lastly, the third thing that I hate about my ID.4, and yes, it is the software. It is slow. You can't have slow software in a car. It takes forever to fully power up and set itself up, sometimes up to 2 minutes, which is a really long time when you're just trying to get in the car and pick up your Chipotle order. Crap. I'll be right back. On top of that, much like everyone else, I figured out that using the native navigation system is a moot point and it's much better to use Android Auto or the CarPlay if you're Team Apple, but the integration is horrific. Almost every time I get into the car and connect to the Android Auto, it takes the sound away from other apps like YouTube or messaging apps. It does it randomly and brings it back randomly too. And sometimes the map screen just goes blank in the middle of navigating me to a destination, and then you can't switch it back to the phone either, so you're kind of stuck. And honestly, I don't have footage of that because it makes me so mad that I forget that I'm a YouTuber and I have to film that. And you would think that all of these issues would have been corrected by now, but I haven't received a single over-the-air update in over a year of owning the car. I got the Air, but the Volkswagen doesn't have any updates. Someone needs to get fired. So these are my top 3 things that I love and hate about my ID.4, but overall, I'm pretty happy with it, especially looking at my tiny monthly lease payments.
Okay, so the next video is when all of the issues that I was kind of willing to deal with as the first adopter kind of started to pile up, and I've noticed that Volkswagen wasn't going to do anything about it, and my communication with Volkswagen as a member of the media and as an owner have really taken a dive. This is what happened.
After I got my ID.4, Volkswagen and I have partnered up to promote the car on my channel because the only products and services I promote on here are the ones that I either like or better yet, got for myself. So let me be very clear that doing this video and telling the truth about my experience with the ID.4 will absolutely take me out of the pool of influencers considered for the next Volkswagen ad campaign, and that will lose me a significant amount of revenues. But I can't be a cheerleader for this car any longer. When I just got the car, I knew there were a few software glitches to deal with, and I knew that's the price to pay as one of the first adopters. But Volkswagen has promised to quickly fix them with over-the-air updates, so I wasn't really sweating it. Well, I'm sweating now. Yeah. Glitches turned into annoyances, annoyances turned into inconveniences, inconveniences turned into issues, and issues turned into safety concerns. What did not turn into anything were my consistent requests to Volkswagen to solve these issues. And I know I'm not the only one. How do I know? Well, actually, I didn't really have to go that far to find out. Luckily, I run one of the biggest ID.4 owner communities on Facebook with over 10,000 members, and a quick poll showed that at least 40% had software issues. 40%! That's like 60% less than the number of Volkswagen software engineers who should be unemployed. Now, before I tell you about all of the problems that I, and I'm sure those 40% of owners have experienced, let me be very clear that I did reach out to Volkswagen to come on this channel and address these issues. Funny story though. Now, recently Volkswagen has told me that they have banned me from their media events because of this video about the ID Buzz, in which I said this. It kind of looks like a Ford delivery van dressed up as a Volkswagen minibus for Halloween. Yeah, see, I think what they were looking for was this.
This is the new ID Buzz, and it's the cure, my friends, the cure for the oversized yet somehow cramped, boring, samey, annoying SUV that had been clogging up our streets for too damn long. Out on the road in the ID Buzz, you're going to see a big, stupid grin on my face quite a lot today. And that's saying something because I am naturally frowny, but I can't be in this car. It just makes you happy.
Oh, I get it. See, I was practicing that in front of the mirror for a while, but then, you know, once the camera was on and the lights were shining, you know me, blah, you know, the truth comes out. I should give those guys a call and see how they do it. Oh. After I reached out to Volkswagen's PR department, you know, public relations without the relations, and asked them to comment on this ridiculously long list of software issues that I and many other owners have been having. They said, you want us to do what? On camera. And it's going to be recording? Then no. So I guess you can't win with Volkswagen anymore, unless it's a class action lawsuit. So let me show you a few issues that have been really making my ID.4 unusable sometimes. Now, granted, from the very beginning, it took a long time for the main screen to boot up. Like it was an old Windows 95 PC. But a lot of times I'd be well out of my neighborhood by the time everything came up. But the biggest, I meant to say this, I just have a mic on the way. The biggest issues that I've had with my car is connecting my phone and then launching the Android Auto. Sometimes it doesn't connect at all, sometimes it connects, but then in the middle of me driving would just disconnect, which is very annoying and even unsafe if I'm trying to follow the navigation. But the most annoying thing that it does many times per each drive is randomly lose sound for no reason. I can listen to a voice note on a WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger, then record a reply, and then try listening to the next one, and boom, the sound is gone. Sometimes the sound comes back, but gets limited to like 20% of the volume, so you can't really hear it. On top of that, and this has started to happen a few months ago, Only when I am in the ID.4, my phone would overheat to the point of having to shut down, unless I jam it into my AC vent to cool it off, which now has become my everyday driving experience. I have changed 3 phones now, and the same thing happens over and over again, but only in the ID.4. I have used my phone in other cars, and it works just fine. I mean, I can fry an egg on my phone while driving. Suck it, Rivian drivers. My portable kitchen is free. Did I also mention that the screen sometimes just takes a vacation and goes blank? Or the whole infotainment system just randomly restarts, or sometimes the backup camera stops working, and then what am I supposed to do? Now, luckily, my grandmother taught me what they used to do back in the day, which is, and this is crazy, they would actually turn all the way around so they can see with their eyes, you know, all the neighbors' dogs they're just about to run over. Barbaric. I also get random error messages on the screen, which unfortunately I'm not able to capture for you guys since they go away so fast, but I was able to capture my tire pressure monitor, which for some reason does not display the PSI measurements, telling me my tire pressure was low, while I've verified multiple times that the tire pressure was up to spec. But wait, there is more. Another thing that drives me crazy is when I walk up to my car and it greets me by turning the lights on, which is nice, and then it unlocks my doors, but it doesn't unlock my charging port. So I have to take my fob out and unlock the car again to get the charging cable out. And last but not least, definitely not least, let's talk about the app. Let me take my blood pressure medication first. Now, the app was already redone once and in its second version, but not only it has very few features, but it still takes forever to use any of them. It may take quite some time to get something simple going, like turning the air conditioning on. There have been cases where by the time I got to the car, the app still did not trigger the AC to go on, and I ended up turning it on by hand, very sweaty hand, once already inside. Also, if you try to change the temperature after turning the climate on, the app throws a bunch of error messages because it looks at the temperature change as a completely from scratch separate command. Oh, and get this, you have to log in to the app twice, once into the app and the second time into the actual car. It is insane. I mean, I can probably hire a couple of software engineers off of Fiverr to make a better app over a weekend. I'm not kidding. Am I ever? I truly believe this is probably true. I did contact the Volkswagen of America over a year ago when the problem started and worked with them and my local service center to figure things out. They even at some point had me meet with their software expert that they flew in from Germany, because that's where all software experts come from. And the answer that he gave me was, I think, more infuriating than all of these problems together. He blamed it on Google. But after I pointed out to them that the same Google's software, the Android Auto, works just fine in all other cars I've tried, they have finally admitted that they were working on a fix which would be in the next over-the-air update. Now, I don't know what he meant by the next update, because no one in the United States has gotten one since, let's see, it's October now, ever. I haven't gotten one, and I am halfway through my lease. So, in the last year and a half, I went from a fan and an advocate to someone who hates getting into his car. And it's a shame. I really hope that Volkswagen is going to do right by all of us, the ID.4 owners, before they lose us forever to so many great alternative choices that are growing with every day.
Yeah. Now, if you thought that things could not get any worse, boy, you better watch the next video. But before you do, I cannot stress enough, how much money of potential revenues I have forfeited by actually coming forward and telling these stories to you guys. So I hope you appreciate it, because it was good money. So here's what happened next. Fast forward to a few months ago, and Volkswagen has finally announced that they were going to roll out the new software update. It wasn't going to be over the air because the software wasn't really ready yet. Surprise, surprise, you had to bring the car in. Now, with all of the problems that I had with this car, I wasn't going to get it right away because, you know, why would I trust German software engineers to fix my software issues they've created with more software they've created after that? But they forced me into it anyway. And this is where the story gets really frustrating, and I can't stress enough that it is not just my story. It is not actually that uncommon among other ID.4 owners. As I've decided to leave California a couple of months ago, and there is a video about that too, I took my ID.4 across country to look for a new place to live. From the first couple of weeks of the trip, I've noticed that my ID.4 didn't always connect to the Electrify America stations, and I had to call customer support to manually force the start. Now, that usually wasted about 15 minutes of my time, and that's a lot when you are driving for many hours per day. Now, I've checked with other EV model owners, but just like with the Android Auto, the issue appeared to be contained to just Volkswagen. When I got to Oklahoma City, I started getting some warnings from my ID.4 that my 12-volt battery was low. Now, the irony of even having to have a 12-volt battery in an electric car aside, I figured that driving around for a bit will fix it. However, I also started getting other random error messages, and as my luck would have it, as I checked out of my Airbnb, loaded my car to make my drive to Austin, Texas, the car has started throwing a few fatal messages and then just died. So I had to call a tow truck, and the driver was quick to point out that these electrical cars are crap and he hates them as much as he hates California. Now, stranded in the middle of Oklahoma City, I was in no position to argue. So I got the car to the Volkswagen dealership, and they told me that the 12-volt battery was actually fine and they just needed to update, say it with me, the faulty software designed by the faulty German software engineers. So I went on to Austin, and after I realized Austin was pretty much like California without the beach, I made my way to Houston, arriving just a few days before Christmas. Not a creature was stirring, not even the Volkswagen Service Center certified technician. It rhymed better in my head. As soon as I arrived, the car gave me a few 12-volt battery warnings through the red electrical problem warning and then died again. So I got it to the Houston Volkswagen dealer this time and was told that there are more software issues that causing this, but luckily they have the brand new, not so over-the-air update, and as soon as they install it, it will fix all of my problems. I asked them if the problem could just be fixed by replacing the 12-volt battery, and they said it probably could, but the only 12-volt battery they had in stock was strictly reserved for those who were getting the upgrade. So I had no choice but to get the damn upgrade, which consisted of the software update and the brand new 12-volt battery. I asked them how many hours I'd have to wait, and after the laughter has subsided, they told me that I would get it after the Christmas weekend. Now, I told them that I would really like to have a car over the Christmas weekend so I can celebrate it properly by having dinner at IHOP, but they told me that besides the 12-volt batteries, they also don't have any loaners or any agreements with the local car rental companies. So after spending a very lonely Christmas Ubering between my neighborhood's IHOP and my Airbnb, I got my ID.4 back. Now, I gotta be honest, I was a bit excited to see the effects of the new update, the new features, the new UI, and most importantly, I was looking forward to my Android Auto related problems to finally go away. Now, I don't even know why I had this expectation, but of course, none of my problems were fixed. So they lied to me and the rest of us again. The list of the new features is short, useless, and honestly boring. They did add this annoying launch screen, which even after I log in, still comes up every time and you have to dismiss it. Yet I see no difference in having to log in the first place. Then they also created a new charging screen shortcut icon and then put it on a screen that most people don't even know exists. And they've added a bunch of useless information to clutter up the right part of the instrument panel, and that's pretty much it. As a matter of fact, it feels like they've made the UX actually worse. So let's summarize, shall we? The original software was so bad that it brought my car to shut down. The new software hasn't fixed the previous issues and have created a few new ones. And the Volkswagen PR department still told me to f*** off when I asked them to comment on this issue. Did I miss anything? Oh, that reminds me, does anybody want to buy a 2-year-old Volkswagen ID.4? It's got a brand new 12-volt battery. A few dents, mainly from angry fist punches, but it still looks okay. Let me know. So that's how I ended up there, wondering if Volkswagen can make an ID.7 if they haven't gotten even close to making a decent ID.7-3. I'll keep you posted. Okay, now we come to the grand finale, and this last video that I made about it got more than 500,000 views. It still gets thousands of views a week as it should, but this is essentially the conclusion where I returned the car, but there are a lot of other things that have happened. There's one more thing I want to mention, but I'm going to wait until you guys watch this and I will tell you that at the end. Since then, the Volkswagen Group kicked out their big CEO, Herbert Diess. He was big in terms of electrifying the Volkswagen Group. Unfortunately, he was replaced with the Porsche CEO. And as you guys know, I think, you know, the Porsche Taycan, the only EV from Porsche so far, is a bit of an embarrassment to electric vehicles, despite some really good specs. We'll see what happens with them. As of for me, I am going to be in Thailand, and it will be kind of fun to see the EV revolution to take off, because they're just coming around to that. There will be a whole different set of EVs for me to check out, and they really need it. The pollution is really bad, especially where I'm moving to, which is downtown Bangkok. So that's it. That's the end of this unfortunate story. Now, many other things have happened since then, and I want to mention it now. First of all, the Volkswagen Group has fired their CEO and their CEO of America, Scott, who you've seen me interview. I liked both of them. They unfortunately put this knucklehead who was running Porsche in charge, and he's already been running the whole thing into the ground. As I predicted, the Volkswagen electric car sales are in trouble already. So that's very unfortunate. Now I do want to say that, yes, I bought one of the very first ID.4s, and it had all this trouble, which, you know, the newer ID.4s are less likely to have, right? However, I think my biggest frustration wasn't even so much with the problems, but how Volkswagen has handled that. So I'm just going to leave it here for you guys to decide if you are thinking about buying a Volkswagen product of any type, but specifically the ID.4, a Volkswagen electric car. Because like I said, the product has improved. I don't know if their service and you know, their relationship with customers has as well. I'm gonna go with no, but you will be the judge. You know, my job is to just basically tell you what happened in my case, and as you know, my story has been supported by many other stories from other ID.4 owners in my Facebook group that's still growing strong. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Other than that, see you guys next time, and remember to stay charged.